Can I have your attention, please? Calling all new moms, seasoned moms, soon-to-be moms, and all you mamas in between.
Welcome to the MomFriends podcast. I am your host, Rach, and I am so happy to have you here. I hope this podcast gives you conversations that help you to not feel so alone. Because even though it seems like we're surrounded by bodies 24/7, motherhood can still feel really lonely at times. And how are we supposed to know all this stuff? Join us for conversations where we keep it real, keep it honest, and maybe even get a little controversial. There's only one little catch. This is a safe space and there is no room for judgment or mom shaming. So let's all be kind, keep an open mind, and enjoy ourselves. Let's get into it. Hi, mom friends. Welcome back. Happy Monday. I'm happy to have you here to just have an intimate chat because this week we are focusing all about sex. Unfortunately, not the kinky kind because there really isn't much kinkiness involved with the thought of having sex again post-baby after you've had your lady hole stretched to an unimaginable stretching size, okay? And the thought of, for most of us, the thought of being intimate again post-baby can be really scary and overwhelming. And if you have felt that way, or you do feel that way, or you think you might feel that way, just know that's completely normal. Totally normal, okay? And if you are totally raring to go and you're like, no, I'm Gucci, power to you, babe. But I know for a lot of us, it is a lot because our bodies just went through a serious trauma, regardless of whether you had a perfect, natural, no tearing, no complication birth, or you had massive tears or a C-section, or complications. It doesn't matter what type of birth you had in context of this conversation because it's still traumatic for your body. And you have so many aspects that are new to you, and your hormones are taking a dip and you're physically healing. And there's so much going on that seems to be the last thing on our mind most of the time. And there's no specific timeline of when you should be ready. Okay. So don't feel like if you're 8 weeks right now and the doctor's yep, cool, you've passed, go ahead. And you're I don't even think I'm remotely close to being ready for that. I hear ya. It's normal. It's okay. You don't have to be ready. The whole theme that I'm going to try and drive home for you today is that this is your timeline, your readiness. And I really hope that at the end of this, you can be confident not letting anybody kind of push you or sway you to do something you're not ready for. Because all of us heal differently, and a lot of us, our mental kind of readiness and I don't even know how to the puzzle of our mental insanity post-birth is scrambled for a long time. Okay. So if you're I don't really know, my partner kind of wants to be I'm feeling uneasy about it. It's okay. We're going to dive into all of it. Okay. So physically, your doctor or your midwife is probably going to give you the go ahead around 4 to 6 weeks. Most women are not ready before that. But if you're on your third kid and you're I don't really, this is nothing to me anymore, I'm used to it. Or even if you are on your first kid and you're I'm cool. I would not recommend doing anything intravaginally before the 4-week mark not because I don't think you can handle it, okay? But because the likelihood of you having any kind of tearing if you didn't have a C-section, only 20% of women have no tearing at all. So even if you don't have a full episiotomy or some crazy outside stitches, the likelihood of at least micro tears inside is high. And if you do anything before those are healed, you do have quite a risk for infection, especially because it's hard to clean that properly and you just don't know what you're putting up there. So if you are raring to go, I would highly suggest waiting, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. Just saying there are risks involved, and the biggest one is infection. And you do not want to be dealing with infection when you're caring for a newborn and you're exhausted and like your body's already healing from everything else. It's not something anyone would like purposely go for. So that's just a preface. We're not probably going to focus on you people, sorry, because if you're raring to go, you're raring to go and you're like, woohoo, I don't really need this conversation. But for the other probably 95% of people, and you'll get that go ahead from your doctor, like I said, between 4 to 6 weeks. And just because that happens and just because they're physically like, you're healed, your tears have like closed, you're not bleeding anymore, you're good, doesn't mean you have to do that. Doesn't mean you have to feel like you're good, right? Because doctors and health professionals only have a physical scale of readiness because that's the only objective thing that they can, test and judge to tell you when they think it's physically okay to have intercourse without hurting anything. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone else's mental game is subjective and it varies so widely, so they can't tell you that way whether or not you're supposed to be ready, and nobody else can. I can't tell you when you're going to be ready. You'll know. And you know what? If you think you are at some point and you get into it and you change your mind and you're like, oh my God, this is way too overwhelming for me, that's also okay. You can stop in the middle of doing the deed if you feel like you're like, this is too much for me, I can't handle this for whatever reason, and we'll get into some of those in a second. But you're validated in like changing your mind because it's a lot. Okay, it's not something a lot of women, and I know I never thought about it really. I was like, oh yeah, like after the 4 to 6 weeks, like back at it, I definitely enjoy bedroom activities with my sexy husband. So I was like, yeah, let's go. And then I gave birth and I was like, get away from me. Okay. So like, you don't know how you're going to react to that. Even if you did have a high libido before, you might find that has changed for you, and that's also okay. But yeah, what the heck was I saying? Yeah. So if you're like in the middle of it, or if afterwards, you're like, that was fine, but I just feel really weird and I'm uncomfortable now and I'm not ready. You can wait however long you want. Again, just because you wanted to give it a go once doesn't mean you have to continue on a regular schedule if you're not ready. Okay. So I just want to preface all of this with, and keeping in mind, and I'm going to drive this home like a broken record, like this is your timeline. You are the only one who can decide when you're ready. Okay. There's a lot of factors that play into this. And I know for me, I definitely felt a lot of like the guilt with my partner, not from him because he was not pushy. Like, yeah, he would ask, like several weeks after I got the go ahead or whatever, because he's a man, but he was not upset if I said no, and he was not pushy. He was not making me feel bad. He's like, okay, like you just let me know, like whatever. I pray, and I will manifest this, that you all have sexual partners that, oh my God, my eye's twitching. What the heck? 1 second. That is so weird. I hate that. It's been doing that a lot lately. Anyways, I pray you all have like really respectful partners and partners that you can communicate with, because I think ultimately that is one of the most important aspects of this conversation, especially to kind of help put you at ease and put you in a position where you're like not feeling that pressure as much because you have communicated with your partner about how you're feeling and where you're at with things. And like I said, I'm manifesting, praying you all have a good partner. If you're communicating properly, they should be respectful of that. So please, like I said, be communicative with your partner and don't let your guilt push you into doing something you're not ready for, because that can actually be worse than waiting, there are more consequences to doing something you're not ready for. It might traumatize you if you feel like physically, even if you got the go ahead, you're just like, it's just not right, because things are different down there afterwards. Not forever, maybe forever. And it's not a bad thing. It's just different. You're different. Your body's different. So don't push yourself into doing something you're not ready for, because that can kind of taint that whole experience moving forward for you. And like I said, there's no timeline. It's different for everybody. With your physical healing, your hormones, which is a huge one, they are all over the place postpartum. And you just never know what they're going to put you through next. So be patient with yourself, okay? And for some people, yeah, they're ready to do it at the 4 to 6 weeks mark. But a lot of times, especially for first-time moms, it takes a lot longer than that. Like, I've had friends that are 2 months. I've had friends that are 6 months. I've had one person talk to me 8 months. Okay, so it's like, that sounds like a long time, maybe, but it's a very mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically demanding thing. After you've given your body up for so long, you've had this trauma happen to your body is, and your mind is continuously changing and healing and going through so much. So I know I've said this 16 times already, but like, your timeline's your timeline, okay? And I struggled with it, okay? It took me a while, and it wasn't even necessarily the physical aspect of it. Like, once you're healed. But like I said, it does feel different. So it's kind of like a weird thing. But it's a mental scramble. Okay, it's not the same for a lot of people, at least for a while, right? And the physical aspect wasn't necessarily what was getting me. I think I was building myself up, being like, this might really hurt. I'm nervous. And like, when you're like that, yeah, it might hurt, because that's what you're thinking about. And it's been a while since anything's been up. Like, you can't even wear a tampon for the first long time, right? So that can kind of mess with you into thinking something's like going to be a lot worse than it is. But for a long time after, like, I was always exhausted. I'm not getting any sleep. My son was a crap sleeper for a long time. So it's like, I was pouring everything all day, all the energy I had into this little bean. And then, when it comes time to, at the end of the day, and you and your husband or your partner do have a little bit of time together, it's like, the last thing I have energy for is to be intimate. And it sounds horrible in a way, but it's also not against your partner, right? It's literally like, for me, I'm like, okay, it's nighttime now. Say it's like 9 o'clock, let's say. And I've been all day in and out, right? My newborn is going down. I know I have tops 3 hours before he's up again, screaming for a diaper, begging me for boob juice, and I have to wake up. So I'm like, okay, exactly 3 hours from when I put him down. It's going to take me a while to fall asleep. By then, and he's going to wake up a little bit early. So by then I have maybe 2 hours to get some sleep. The last thing my mind is focusing on is taking some of that time I have to rest, the only time I get to rest, to engage in activities requiring energy. It's not that you don't want intimacy with your partner. It's just that it's not necessarily a priority while you're so mentally and physically and emotionally drained. It's really difficult to give that to them. And there's a lot of like, I'm trying to word this properly. Everything's new, and everything with becoming a new mom is overwhelming, or even having other kids is overwhelming. So you're trying to figure out, well, how to even keep this helpless, beautiful little soul alive while also giving attention to your family, to your friends, to your animals, to your partner, to yourself. Are you kidding? Yourself is the last thing that you know how to take care of at this point. And as much as everyone's like, don't worry about it, we get it, that doesn't actually last very long. And it's not like people are demanding things from you, but it's like we as women try to do everything. Okay. It's just in our DNA. We're one of the only type of species that can multitask. Okay. Women are on a different level. So it's like, as much as everyone can say, like, you don't need to text me back, take your time, you don't need to come visit, you don't need to do the laundry, you don't need to do all these things. It's like, we can't help it because it's in our blood to take care of everybody around us. And the absolute priority that's taking all of your attention is that little bean. And then you're trying to spread it out to everyone else in your life. And then if there's a drop left, you give it to yourself. But the point of this is that you're spread so thin that you don't have much to give to your partner. And that's not an excuse to like let your relationship go, but it is a very valid reason for lacking intimacy. And that's a tough thing, I think, for them as well. And we do have to acknowledge that our partners are entitled to their feelings. And especially if you're with a horn dog, that's horrible. I'm not in that situation, but like, I know there are people that are like very like sexually driven, and that can be frustrating for them because that's like a physiological response. That's like a instinctual like need for that kind of desire. So it is frustrating for the other person, and we do have to be respectful of their feelings as well, not to put ours aside. Unfortunately for them, ours do take precedent. Okay. So yeah, it's a lot. It's overwhelming. Your hormones are going crazy. Okay. And your hormones are learning how to balance themselves for at least 6 months. Okay. So if you're like, why don't I'm not back to myself. I don't feel like I am even remotely close to who I was pre-baby. Yeah, that's because it takes a long time to rebalance your body. And even it can take up to like a year for everything to kind of re-neutralize themselves. So give yourself grace, okay? And like I said, don't push yourself to do something you're not ready for. It's a lot, it's overwhelming, and it's a mental game in terms of if you were any kind of, you're human, you're female, you're insecure about something, okay? So if that's like a thing for you, and post baby, like your body has changed so much, you're not the same person, it's a good thing, it's a beautiful thing, but it's also something that like you need to adjust to. And it can be difficult to, as you're learning to accept and embrace and love your new body, it can play a role in like not knowing how to expose yourself in an intimate setting if you're not comfortable with it. So that plays a huge role for me. I'm somebody who has struggled my entire life with insecurities and body dysmorphia, and just being really, really hard on myself, that getting comfortable in an intimate setting with somebody takes a really long time for me. And then to have your body completely change, it's like you're relearning how to do that all over again. Even though you're with a partner, my husband thinks no matter what I look like, I am the most beautiful human being in the entire world. And like, I believe him so much when he says that. And I do believe that's how he sees me. So it's not him judging me. He never once judged my pregnant body, my normal body, my postpartum body. He loves every single aspect of it, no matter what it looks like. He thinks it's amazing. So it's not him putting that. It's my own inner issues that I'm projecting into that space. And that's not an easy thing to like navigate, because it takes a long time to deal with it. It takes a long time to get to a place where you're comfortable exposing yourself. It can, not for everybody, of course. And if you're somebody who's like, I don't really care about that, that's not what's affecting me, I am so happy to hear that, because I don't wish that on anybody. I hope you all love yourselves. I hope you're all obsessed with your postpartum body, because it just did something so freaking magical and beautiful and special and important, and it's such a blessing, and we can acknowledge that. And we can also have the flip side of the coin. We can also be insecure about it. We can also nitpick ourselves, because that's just what women do. And I hate it, and I wish it wasn't true, but we are talking about real shit today, okay? So that can play an important, I shouldn't say important in the sense of like, it's a good thing. It's just that plays a very heavy role for a lot of women into getting back into your intimate relations, okay? So there are many factors that play into your readiness, and you need to be honest with yourself and don't push it and just go at your own pace. Okay. So now we've dealt with all of that, and now we're ready to have sex, and it's your first time having sex post baby. The main thing that I want you to remember is that you are in control. You set the pace. You set the pressure. You set the position. You set what you're comfortable with, okay? Because that is going to make or break your experience. And if you're not with a partner that is okay with that, I would really, really, really would like you to reconsider that partner, because your partner should respect you. And that's a whole other conversation we don't need to get into. I'm sure some of you are in complicated situations, and sometimes people just suck a little bit, okay? But I said it before, and I'm saying it again because I'm manifesting that you all have good sexual partners, okay? So you set the pace. That is very important, because if you're hesitant at first and you want to go slow and take things easy, that's okay. And that's what you need to do until you feel good about it. I want this to be a good experience, not a traumatizing experience, okay? So ask for control. Your partner will give it to you. And here we go. Oh, let me just throw a quick side note, mamas. This is completely irrelevant, but also I need to tell you, it has not happened to me, but my midwife drive this home to me. And after she said it, I've had conversations with women that will vouch for this. If you're breastfeeding and you're returning to sex, it is a full myth, 100% a myth, that you cannot get pregnant if you're breastfeeding. Not true. Not true. Okay? If you don't want a baby 7 weeks after you've had a baby, you need to use contraception of whatever sort you want. Okay? Because if you're breastfeeding, you can still get pregnant. Anyway, just a side note, had to throw that out there for you. Because a lot of women do think, I don't know where it came from, but I heard that too. I was like, oh, that's cool. You can't get pregnant when you're breastfeeding. Why? Not sure. Not true. Anyways. Okay. So we're ready. We're in control. We are setting the scene, and you're not sure what to expect physically. And I have a lot of anxiety when I don't know what to expect about things. And I'm sure some of you do too. So here we go. What's normal? What's not physically? Well, there are many different things that women can experience, okay, that are totally normal things. Oh my goodness, can you guys hear that? It is like downpouring like a maniac out there. I don't know if you can hear that. Anyways, there's a lot of things that are like totally normal that maybe wouldn't be normal if you didn't have a baby. So you'd be like, why am I experiencing this? It's kosher. You might experience vaginal soreness, pain, dryness is a big one, whether it's like hormones, just like fluid loss, dehydration, that can happen a lot. Weird discharge after you have sex. Your nipples can feel kind of weird or sore. You might have back pain or breast pain. Body aches can be normal. And then if you've had a C-section, incision pain can be common as well. So generally, those kind of things will improve as you go. But like I said before, and I will reiterate, if you're in it and some of these things are happening and they just feel like it's too much for you, you can stop. Okay. And then you can try again another time, even if it's weeks down the road from that point. Okay. But if there are things like symptoms you're having and you're concerned about them, can you hear that? Bro, I feel like there's gonna be a tornado. I'm getting nervous. Okay. If there's something you're nervous about physically, talk to your doctor. It's okay. You're not overthinking something because this is so new to you. And if you're concerned or you're having, large amounts of bleeding, or you're having clotting, or you're having like intense pain that doesn't go away, definitely call your doctor. And if you're concerned about anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to your practitioner because it's important. It's new and you never know. Just get checked out if you feel like you need to. Okay. Now, ladies, I am going to tell you something. Okay. Lubricant, your best friend. Buy it, stock up, put it in your bedside drawer. You need it, okay? Because even if it's like not your thing, I'm telling you right now, it is going to make things a heck of a lot smoother, okay? Use it, douse the whole bottle. I'm telling you, it's okay. It's not a bad thing because, like I said, you can be quite dry. And sometimes it's just not, you might not mentally be as into it, and therefore your body will not naturally lubricate yourself for you. So use it. I promise. Put it in your nightstand. I will send you 17 bottles. Okay. Now, if what you're feeling about this, if you've kind of heard, the past 20 minutes of me kind of talking a lot more about the physical things and how they can affect you mentally, and you're like, yeah, but I think it's a lot more in my head, and you've just like feel like you've completely lost your libido, that's also normal. I can very much relate to that. How about halfway through my pregnancy? Well, before I got pregnant, I would say like I had a pretty good one. I definitely enjoyed my time with my hubby. And then halfway through my pregnancy, it just kind of like floated away, disappeared, and it didn't return for like quite a long time. And I was like, this is new territory for me. I don't know why I'm not feeling into it. Like I don't desire it. I don't think about it. I get not repulsed. That's a fucking terrible word. I get turned away from it. Like I'm like, I don't wanna. I don't feel like that is something I care about right now. And because it lasted longer than I thought it would, it definitely had me spiraling in my mind. But what I learned and what I want you to know is that that's okay. And it has nothing to do with the love you have for your partner. It doesn't mean you don't find them attractive. And I think it's also hard for them, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But for you, don't feel so bad that you're not the same, because you're a completely different person now. And that year to year and a half of becoming pregnant, those 9 months, and then, going through a lot of the postpartum period, especially the first like 6 months, and it can last a lot longer. So don't feel like if it is lasting longer, that's not normal, because it is. But that kind of, what's 6 plus 9, 15, that 15-month period, everything is completely done a 180 for you. So if your libido also did a 180, yeah, it's okay. And like I said, it doesn't mean you're not attracted to your partner. It just means your mind and your hormones and your mentality is just not attracted to anything, because it's just like there's so much else going on that's not something your body craves at this moment. And it's hard to be on the receiving end, because maybe you have lost a little bit of interest, or like you feel like you don't know how to explain that to them, or you're grumpy a lot of the times because you're so tired, and maybe like they're the person that's there and you're taking it out on them. So it does affect your relationship in a way that nothing else does. And there's something after you give birth that's called the roommate phase. And I'm going to do another episode just on that and explaining that soon for you guys, because I think it's something that nobody really talks about. And it's this period of time after you have a baby that your relationship turns into two people co-parenting and living like roommates. Your sparkle between the two of you kind of fades. Your intimacy disappears. You aren't really probably talking the nicest to each other because you're both tired and overwhelmed and sleep deprived. And, especially for women, you're going through postpartum. Men can go through postpartum too. So there's a lot going on, and your relationship between you and your partner takes a back seat to the relationship that you're building with your child. That's normal, and it frigging sucks. Okay. And like I said, I'll get into that in another one, but I just want to put that in there because it's like, if you're like, well, I just don't know if I feel attracted to my partner because I'm just not thinking about that stuff. That's okay. You'll get that back. It does take time. And the most important thing is communication and letting your partner know how you're feeling and where you're at, and allowing them space to also share their feelings. I know in those moments you can feel, oh my goodness, you can feel like I have been momming all day and I'm covered in vomit and I've had no sleep, and you're trying to tell me how you feel, and screw you. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand. And you just want to freak out because you're like, this is so much. How do you even have fucking emotion about this? Take a chill. I totally get that feeling, and you're validated in that. But it is also important to remember that the partners of women who give birth also go through a lot of emotion and their own version of postpartum in that 4th trimester, especially. So give each other grace and just be respectful and communicative and hear each other out, okay? Because at the end of the day, you're a team and you're in it together and you have to work through it. But that being said, there are times in our lives where one person in the relationship, what they're dealing with, does take precedent over the other person's. It doesn't mean you're not equals. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a time where the roles are reversed and someone else, the other person, is dealing with something where their feelings do have to take precedent over yours. So it is a give and a take, but that's just the way relationships go. That's how marriages go. That's how friendships go. That's how any type of relationship goes. So mamas, this is where you're going to pause the podcast, remember the time, mark it down, and hand it to your partner, okay? Because I have something to say to them. Ready? Okay. Hi there. My name is Mama Rach. You don't know me, but I know you. I know you might have moments of frustration because your partner is not as interested and invested in your intimate and bedroom activities as they might have used to be. Okay? And you're allowed to be frustrated and you're allowed to feel off about it because you feel like you're not being given attention and your partner's not batting an eyelash at you. And that's normal. Okay? And as much as your feelings are equally as important as hers in your relationship, they are. Okay? I want you to remember that. But right now, your partner's feelings and experiences are going to take precedent over yours. That doesn't mean yours don't matter. It just means you need to stomach them, focus on your partner, and realize that she just carried your child for 9 months. And then at the end of those 9 months, her body just experienced one of the biggest traumas a woman will naturally experience. She's exhausted. She is overwhelmed. She's sad. She's experiencing so many new things the same way you are. Absolutely. But her physical body has dealt with a frick of a lot more than yours. And she needs to be given grace. And you need to respect the fact that she might need some time before she's ready for that stuff again. And you're going to have to be okay with that. And I just need you guys to remember that this process of becoming a mom takes everything out of her. It's not that she doesn't love you. It's not that she doesn't think you're a sexy little hunk and she loves your little man toy. Okay, she loves it. But right now, she is so emotionally, mentally, and physically drained all the time. I know you see that. I know you respect it. I know sometimes you can forget in moments where you're frustrated. I know you have needs and they are important. But trust me when I tell you, she knows that as well. She feels very guilty that she's not able to give you what you need in your relationship right now. She wants to. She absolutely feels really bad about it. But right now, her focus is on that little bean. It's instinctual. It's not even like she can help it. All she thinks about is how to keep your child alive. She is giving her body. She is giving up her sleep. She is giving up her showers. She's giving up everything because she loves that little bean, okay? So please don't pile onto her stress. Please give her grace. I know that you know that she deserves it. I promise you, you will get your spark back. It might feel like it's taking forever, and maybe it is, but it will return. So be strong for her, hold her up, fill up her water bottle, and continue to love her because she needs you right now. Thank you. Okay, mamas, back to you. You are doing amazing. And like I said, I know that it can be frustrating for you when your partner's vocalizing how they feel because you're like, you just don't get it. Shut up. And I know you have crazy hormones and I know you're tired, but I'm just going to give you some tough love and be honest with you right now. It's not an excuse to be a bitch. Okay. If it slips up and it happens, it's fine. But I think you need to recognize it. And you also need to give your partner grace because it's also new territory for them too. And at the end of the day, you're strong. You're doing incredible. Your little bean loves you. And you need to do things at your own pace. And you need to be communicative and not push yourself into anything that you're not ready for. So don't feel guilty. Love yourself. Try and find somewhere to give yourself a little bit of self-love and keep trucking because you're going to get through this. I love you, mamas. Talk soon. Mwah. Disclaimer. In no way do the conversations on this podcast replace the advice of health professionals. We are just speaking from our own experiences and what has worked for us. So speak to your midwives, OBs, or family doctors when necessary. When listening, always remember that every mom and every child is different, and what may work for one person might not work for another. There is no one way is the right way when it comes to parenting. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of MomFriends. Please like and subscribe to us so we can grow our beautiful motherhood community together. Talk soon. Mwah.